In the autumn of 1931, a small, quiet town tucked deep within the forests of the American Midwest became the center of one of the most disturbing mysteries in recorded history. A town where, in a single night, everyone vanished. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no explanation, just silence. What investigators found inside that town would haunt them for the rest of their lives. And even today, nearly a century later, no one can explain what truly happened. The town was called Blackridge Hollow. It wasn't large, just under 300 residents, but it was stable, self-sufficient, and by all accounts, ordinary. Nestled between dense pine forests and surrounded by miles of farmland, Blackridge Hollow had been established in the late 1800s by settlers seeking isolation and opportunity. By 1931, it had everything a small town needed: a school, a general store, a church, a handful of homes lining a dirt road that curved gently through the valley. Nothing about Blackridge Hollow suggested it would one day become a place people refused to even speak about. The last confirmed normal day in Blackridge Hollow was October 17, 1931. Residents went about their routines. Children attended school. Farmers worked the fields. Families gathered for dinner as the sun dipped behind the trees. One witness from a nearby town later recalled passing through that afternoon. He described it as peaceful, quiet, like any other place, he said. There was nothing strange about it. That night, something changed. The first sign that something was wrong came the next morning. A delivery driver named Harold Finch was scheduled to bring supplies to Blackridge Hollow's general store. He had made the trip dozens of times before, but on October 18, 1931, the routine delivery turned into something he would never forget. As Harold approached the town, he noticed something unusual. There was no movement, no people walking the roads, no smoke rising from chimneys, no sounds of animals or machinery, just stillness. At first, he assumed it was early. Maybe people were still inside their homes. But as he drove deeper into the town, a strange feeling began to settle over him. Something wasn't right. He parked outside the general store. The door was slightly open. Inside, the lights were still on. Shelves were stocked. The register was open, with money still inside. But there was no shopkeeper, no customers, no one. Harold called out. No answer. He checked the homes nearby. What he found inside would later become one of the most chilling aspects of the entire case. Breakfast tables were still set. Food sat half-eaten on plates. Coffee cups had gone cold where they were left. In one home, a chair had been pushed back suddenly, as if someone had stood up mid-meal and never returned. Beds were unmade, doors unlocked, personal belongings untouched. There were no signs of struggle, no broken furniture, no blood, no forced entry. It was as if every single person in Blackridge Hollow had simply stood up and walked away at the exact same moment. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. Harold noticed something else. Every clock in every house had stopped at the exact same time, 2:17 a.m. Shaken and confused, Harold rushed back to his truck and drove to the nearest town to report what he had seen. Authorities initially assumed it was some kind of mass evacuation, perhaps a gas leak, a fire, some emergency that forced residents to flee. But when law enforcement arrived at Blackridge Hollow later that day, they realized this was something far more disturbing. a full investigation was launched. Search teams combed through the forests, fields, and surrounding areas. They expected to find bodies, or at least signs of movement, tracks, footprints, anything. They found nothing. No trails leading out of town, no evidence that hundreds of people had fled on foot, no wagons, no vehicles missing. Everything was still there. Even the town's animals remained. Dogs wandered the streets. Livestock stood in their pens, hungry and unattended. But the people were gone. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The investigation expanded. State authorities became involved, then federal agents. The disappearance of nearly 300 people without a single trace was something that simply didn't make sense. Theories began to circulate. Some believed it was a mass kidnapping. But how do you abduct an entire town without noise, without resistance, without leaving evidence? Others suggested a natural disaster, but there were no signs of damage, no earthquakes, no storms, nothing. One of the more unsettling theories came from a young investigator who had spent several nights inside the town. He claimed there was something wrong with the place. He reported hearing faint sounds at night, footsteps, whispers, doors creaking open and closing on their own. At first, his superiors dismissed it as stress, but then something happened that made them reconsider. On the third night of surveillance, multiple officers reported the same thing. At exactly 2:17 a.m., every clock in the town, despite being broken, began ticking again, for precisely 1 minute. Then, they stopped, permanently. The officers refused to stay another night. The investigation slowly lost momentum. With no evidence, no suspects, and no explanation, Blackridge Hollow became one of the many unsolved mysteries buried in official records. But the story didn't end there. In the decades that followed, occasional reports surfaced. Hikers passing near the abandoned town claimed to see lights in the distance. Travelers reported hearing voices echoing through the forest at night. Some even claimed to see figures standing in the empty streets, watching them. In 1957, a group of teenagers entered the town as part of a dare. Only 2 of them came back. They refused to speak about what they had seen. The town was eventually sealed off by authorities. Roads leading to it were blocked. Maps stopped including its name. Blackridge Hollow was erased, but not forgotten. In 1989, a historian researching abandoned settlements uncovered the original case files. What he found inside added a new layer of mystery to an already impossible story. Among the documents was a journal belonging to the town's school teacher. The final entry was dated October 17, 1931. It read, "Something is wrong. The children have been hearing voices at night. They say someone is calling them from the forest. We thought it was imagination, but now the adults hear it too. Tonight, at 2:17, we will gather to see what it is. If anyone finds this, do not come looking for us." That was the last record ever written in Blackridge Hollow. No one knows what happened at 2:17 a.m. No one knows where the people went, and no one has ever found a single body. Some believe they left willingly. Others believe they were taken. But the most chilling theory is that they never left at all. that somehow they are still there, waiting. And if you ever find yourself deep in the forest and you hear something calling your name, don't answer, because some places don't just disappear, they take people with them. What do you think really happened in Blackridge Hollow? Was it something explainable or something far darker? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe, because there are still secrets buried in the past, waiting to be uncovered.